Hey, hello! How are you all doing out there? Well, we reached the crescendo of this week. That's according to me at least. This is Friday, and finally, it's Friday night.
Friday night's gonna be alright. It's gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. Friday night.
Yes, finally, it's Friday, and it's all kicked off now. It's Friday night, a nice segue into the weekend, and as usual, here on Friday Crescendo, I want to give you something to listen to for the weekend, something to explore, perhaps. And today's topic is celebs who do music, who decided to record a record, or two, or three. Who knows? And when I was doing my research for this one, and that means going through my record collection here of celebs that have recorded records, I realized that I could easily do a 2 or 3 hour episode of that, but I won't subject you to that. I will try to keep this short. So what I've done in this one is that I choose the ones that are not as obvious, perhaps the ones that you've forgotten about have done a record or two, or you perhaps never heard of these records before. Even better. So yeah, so if you want me to do a second part of this one sometimes in the future, I will do that. But those are more obvious celebs, perhaps things that you would know about, but they are still interesting, in my opinion. So please let me know. Give me the verdict after this video down in the comments. Yeah, so without any further ado, we're just going to kick it off. In 1986, the Princess of Monaco, Stephanie, decided to do a single called Irresistible. I love this single. It is a perfect pop single, and Stephanie does a really, really great job in singing as well. Really irresistible. Or, as this single was called in its original French title, and I will try to pronounce it, Ouragan. Yeah, so a hurricane or windstorm, really. But I think the record company realized that we might have a bit of a hit on our hand here. So they wrote the English lyrics to it, and it became Irresistible. Yeah, and Stephanie, of course, being one of the children of Rainer III, I think his name was, and of course Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly, who unfortunately, tragically lost her life in a car accident which Stephanie was also in, and fortunately survived. So yeah, a very tragic and fascinating life story when it comes to Stephanie, the Princess of Monaco. And I also have to interject here, of course, she's not only the Princess of Monaco, that's not the only claim to fame. She was actually a model as well, and she did a lot of catwalks for famous designers, and she was in Vogue and all of these trendy magazines of the 80s before she went into the music industry. And she did an album this year as well in 1986 called Besoin, I think. I'm so sorry for that pronunciation again to all my French viewers out there. It roughly translates to need or crave or something like that. And I think I need to check that one out. I haven't listened to it. She also released a second album in 1991, but I do believe those are the only albums she released. And this one is probably the most famous one, the most successful single, really. Never really charted in the US, but it did chart very well in France, where it climbed to number 1, and it did also very well in Germany. It climbed to number 2. I think it peaked at number 2 there, and peaked at number 5 in Austria. So those were the top positions that I could find. Never really charted in Sweden, what I could find out. I thought it did, because I remember hearing this quite a lot on the radio at the time, and that's why I picked this one up. By the way, the UK, it did peak at number 84. 84, can you believe it? A perfect pop single like this, and that leads me into a future episode that I'm going to do, and that is why did certain things that were hugely popular in the rest of Europe never really chart in the UK? That is a big question that I had for years and years. So yeah, watch out for that one here. But yeah, back to this one. This is a 12-inch. Of course, I'm holding in my hand, so you do get an extended version on this one on the A side. And then on the B side, you also get the 7-inch version, both in French and the English one as well. So a perfect 12-inch, really, of a perfect single from Stephanie, Princess of Monaco. When it comes to all these records I'm going to show you, it's something that I started to do in the late 80s. Well, this one really excluded, and we're going to come to another one that's excluded as well, because this one I bought because I thought it was a really nice song and all of that. But some of the others we're going to go through, I bought them because I have this strange obsession by picking up records by television or film personalities that happen to do a record, and I have a lot of them in my collection, and that doesn't mean that I think they are brilliant or anything like that. It's just a curiosity for me, really, and something weird that I collect. Really. So that's where it all comes from, nearly all of it. Yeah, but let's go on to the next one. This is Bond related, actually. It's one of the Bond girls from the 70s, and she's Swedish on top of that. I'm talking about Britt Ekland.
Now what makes you think you could get off so easy? If you really want me, there's one way to please me. You gotta give me what I'm asking for, and do it just the way you did it before. Do it to me once more, feel it.
Yes, Britt Ekland. She starred in, I think, 2 Bond movies at least. The Man with the Golden Gun is the first one that comes to my mind. But between her acting and everything else, she decided to record this one in the late 70s. I think it's 1979 actually on this one. And of course, what was happening in the late 70s? The disco boom. I think this is pretty late for disco, but it's a disco single with Britt Ekland. And I remember when I found this one, I believe it was in 88 or 89. I went to a record fair in Sweden, and I was like, wow, have Britt Ekland made a record? I have to pick it up. You can get these really cheap, actually. This is, of course, the 12-inch that I'm holding in my hand. She never recorded an album. This is, to my knowledge, the only release that she ever did. And it's not much to write home about, to be honest. It's got a disco beat to it. It's got a voice, at least, from Britt Ekland. And, yeah, we do get 2 songs here. Private Party is on the B-side of this one. Now, it's not much to, like I said, to write home about. But because it's Britt Ekland and she plays on her sex appeal, we did get different iterations of this one. There was a 7-inch single that had a gatefold, and this one is also gatefolded. Yeah, I'm going to show you in a bit. And there was also a picture disc. So it was all about Britt Ekland, of course. It was not about the song or her voice or anything like that. This was Britt Ekland. And it did pretty well in Sweden, by the way. I think it charted really high there. So, yeah. Hey, I just have to interject once more here. I just had to check where this one actually charted. And I was right. It did chart in Sweden and peaked at number 15 in the single charts there. But, yeah, that was it. Only in Sweden. But yeah, like I said, after all, it was Britt Ekland. She tried to lure the world in, seduce the world with her disco, and do it to me once more with feeling. But yeah, the rest of the world didn't feel it at all. The one and only single she ever released. But let's have a look at the gatefold. And I'm not sure that I can show you all of it. I may have to blur some things here, but here we go. Yeah. That's something you would expect being hanging from a wall in a petrol station or something like that. I remember back in the day in the late 70s or 80s, and you went into a petrol station and you could see into the back where they had the private space for the people who work there. There was always these calendars, right? You didn't buy this record back in 1979 just to listen to the wonderful voice of Britt Ekland. No, they were selling the image, of course. Yeah. Let's move on and go over to the US for this one. truly a legend. An actress that also were famous for her looks, her sex appeal and all that, but she was quite a good actress as well, I have to say. I'm of course talking about Raquel Welch.
This girl's back in town. She's back for good.
Yeah, in 1987 she released this one, and This Girl Is Back in Town. That was the title of it. And this one I found in a similar way to the Britt Ekland one, not at the same record fair though, but it was my reaction to it was like, did Raquel Welch record a record? I have to pick this one up. She looks so cool as well in this one. She always looked very good, I think, and I'm sad to hear about her passing a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago now. Very sad. A true legend. But yeah, back to this one. What you just heard a snippet of was from the 7-inch single, and it's a pretty standard affair. It's like, 80s pop, perhaps bordering on synth pop, but she does have a really good voice. I have to give her that. She does sing very well. But I never heard the 7-inch because this was the only one I ever picked up, and I always thought this was a banger. Really, because this is quite different from what we heard on the 7-inch or in the video that I just saw. We just saw a snippet of, because on this one we do have an extended vocal remix and an extended rhythm remix as well. And I can't remember who mixed it. Steve Thompson and Michael Barberio. Not familiar with those, but they done a great job with this track. All of a sudden, it's transformed to a more high energy piece of music, perhaps bordering actually on Italo disco, which was quite unique for an US single. But yeah, this, if you're gonna pick up Raquel's Welch single, This Girl's Back in Town, make sure to pick up the 12-inch. That is the version to go for.
This girl's back in town, and she ain't leaving. No. This girl's back in town. She's back for more.
If you couldn't tell, they are quite different. They are. But yeah, when I looked into Raquel Welch, I could only find one other song that she recorded, and I think it was back in 1965. A song that I can't remember the name of. I should have written it down here in my notes, but yeah, hey. It was for a soundtrack at least, and I listened to that one, and it's quite good. She sounds really good. I wouldn't say the song is quite good, but the singing is really good. So she had the voice, but she never recorded anything else after this. This is the only single, along with the 1965 one, that I could find for her discography, which is a shame. She could have had a career in music, I think, with the right producers and all of that. But yeah, we'll stay in the US for the next one, which is another legendary actress, perhaps not as famous or something that people in general would be familiar with, but some of you will remember her. Pia Zadora. Pia Zadora, yes, famous for some of her acting. She actually worked with famous directors like Orson Welles, for example, but she also starred in Santa Claus Conquers the Martians as well. And I think it has been a bit of a roller coaster with Pia Zadora's acting career, really. She got both praise and been spat at, basically, because she got Razzie nominated so many times throughout the years. And yeah, I think it's a bit unfair. She's not that bad at all, but she always been a bigger than life character, really, Pia Zadora, and I love her for that one. And just like with the other ones we just looked at, except for Stephanie, of course, this was another pickup. I was like, ooh, Pia Zadora made a record. I had no clue at the time. I know now that she released her first single in 1979, after doing some research on that. Her first album came out in 1982. But this one is a single from 1984, and yeah, 84, yeah, heyday of the 80s, really, and this is what we would expect. Synth pop, very much 80s single for sure. A half decent track, I want to say. It's not super or anything memorable really. Once again, something I picked up for my celeb collection really. But there is a bonus to this one. As you can see from this printed sticker on this one, it is a German pressing. So it says Platte in mehrfarbigen Vinyl. So that means it's a vinyl, a multicolored vinyl inside. And let's have a look. Yes, a beauty for sure. And very fitting for the Pia Zadora single, I think. It's very sugary and sweet. And yeah, but hey, it's Pia Zadora, and let's dance tonight. Yes, put on a party. After all, it's a Friday night, right? And next, we're gonna go to Italy, and we're gonna listen to some Italo disco from a very unexpected source, a singer called Moana Pozzi. Yeah, so what is so unexpected with Moana Pozzi? Well, for me it was very unexpected. I first heard of her 2 years ago, I think it was, when this one was released. It's a re-released album from Moana Pozzi. She was most famous in Italy for doing adult movies. And I was like, okay, that doesn't bode well, because I do have in my collection, and we're going to see it pretty soon here, another Italian adult actress that tried to do music, and I was never really impressed about that. It's more like a curiosity really. But Moana Pozzi is something else, I'd say. She's got a pretty decent voice, and the production of the music is so good on this one. This is on this particular one, tracks from 1986 to 1988. So yeah, the heyday really of Italo disco in my book. The same year, 2 years ago, this one was also released. So this is Loveland, and the other one is Impulsi di Sesso. Sorry about that pronunciation, my Italian friends. But yeah, so that's where she came onto my radar. And yes, that's where she came onto my radar, not through her movies or anything else. She was so much more, actually, when I read up on her, Moana Pozzi, than just an adult actress. She did start out as a TV personality. I think she was a presenter for a children's show, of all things. And there was a bit of a scandal in the mid-80s, I think, when it came out that she did try to venture, beside her television presenting children's show and all that, try to venture into the adult industry. And of course you couldn't have that. That was a big scandal and all that. And I think in 1985 she was even approached by Federico Fellini, the legendary Italian director, to star in one of his movies at the time, Ginger and Fred. So yeah, and she did some catwalks as well for some Italian brands as well. She has been involved in some politics, and yeah, it's quite an interesting life story really when I try to read about Moana Pozzi. And as I say try to read, because there's not much information out there really, but it turns out she actually wrote 2 books that were self-published as well, all about her life, I assume, but they're only in Italian, and I would love to read those as well, just to learn some more about this fascinating character, Moana. And there was also a TV movie made in Italy based on her life as well, and I think her former manager as well did direct a movie also based on her life, and I would love to see those as well, because like I said, from reading all of that, it says it was not just about her adult films, it was just about her life and all of that. And sadly she did pass away in 1994 from liver cancer, and she did donate a large sum of her fortune that she had at the time, and that was quite large, believe me. When I read it I was like, oh, okay, to cancer research. So yeah, way too early she was taken away from us. But yeah, I can highly recommend either of these albums if you're in the mood for some bit different take on Italo disco and Moana Pozzi. Unfortunately, I can't show you the backsides of any of these albums, and not even the gatefolds, because they are both gatefolds. Because I think Citadelli Records, as they are called, or Synadelic, I think they're called, they decided to go with not so modest pictures when it comes to Moana here. Yeah, so we'll just have to do with this. Nice smile from Moana. Yeah, a bit of a different one. And while we're at it, I just alluded to someone else from Italy that had a similar career, and that is, of course, Cicciolina. Avec Toi is the name of this album. It's a compilation that came out not long ago. She is not the greatest singer, but there is quirky quality to what she has been doing with music. I think she recorded music since the early 70s, or at least the mid 70s. A lot of disco influenced things, and then in the 80s it became more synth pop or Italo disco, call it what you want. But yeah, she is probably the more famous one when it comes to adult stars that happen to have made a record or two or three or four. Yeah, married in the early 90s to Jeff Koons. Yeah, so they had a baby together as well. Yeah, so that's, I think, where she actually came on the public radar, really. In Sweden, she was famous before that, because I remember on Swedish television, she was invited to a very popular Friday show, actually, on Swedish television at the time, called Fräcka Fredag. She did prominently featured on that program, yeah. A couple of times she popped up there, and she was never afraid of expose herself with both her features, let's say that, and her political views as well. She was very active for the Green Party in Italy at the time, and yeah, so she spread her message about love, a greener planet, and all that. So all good things. And yeah, she was an adult film star as well. Rename Ilona Staller, of course. And yeah, what's more to say about her? She's still around. And I'm not really sure what she's up to today, but she did record a couple of records back in the day. And just like with the Moana records, I can't really show you the back of this one. It's a bit more modest, actually, I have to say. But the gatefold, not so much. But yeah, this is more like a curiosity, really. Musolo Rosso, that we will hear a snippet of just in a couple of seconds here. It's one of her better ones, I have to say. She had a very peculiar high-pitched voice when she was doing her singing. Yeah, but that's basically what I know. By the way, Musolo Rosso is red muscle when you translate it, and the lyrics are not really appropriate at all if you know any Italian, so I'm just going to make this really quick, just a quick snippet of Cicciolina appearing on some French television show in 1987, I think it was, when that one was released.
Dopo tutte queste emozioni, nessuno mi può fermare, non mi potete arrestare.
I don't know how much Italian the French audience in this TV studio picked up at the time, but there were some raised eyebrows at times, let me tell you. Or it could also be the fact that that dress she was wearing wasn't really holding things in place. But it could also be of the appearance of Ilona Staller, or Cicciolina, as it was. You never know. But I have to point out something else before we leave this. On this particular album, Avec Toi, she actually does a cover of Sting's Russians. Wonderful track, right, in its original, all about the nuclear armaments in the 80s and the nuclear fears and all of that. And that went very well with Ilona Staller's message about love and peace and all of that. So she had the best intentions. But yeah, that is a version of Russians that you need to listen to. Trust me. Cicciolina. And from Italy and some X-rated stuff over to something that is definitely not X-rated, but very, very cool. Telly Savalas.
They have no tears to cry, just dreams grown old and left to die. They should be thrown away, but not today.
Yes, this is a recent find for me. Throughout the years, I never really came across a Telly Savalas record. I don't know why, but to be honest, I don't actively look for celeb records. It's just if I happen on them by chance in the crates. And this is just what happened last week. Yes, that's how recent this one is. Telly's, yeah, it's just called Telly. It's Telly Savalas, and if you don't know who he was very famous for one role, I would say, and that was as Kojak, the New York City cop that was cleaning up the streets of New York City in the 70s. And I remember back in, this must be in the 80s in Sweden, when they ran Kojak on Swedish television. I love that show. And then later on in the 90s, they had some reruns on it as well, and I always loved to watch it. He's such a cool one, and he's got the best one-liners. That's what I want to say. And first and foremost, he was a badass.
I think that you're playing down the toilet. And here, suck on this a while. Cool you off a little.
Yeah, so sometimes in the 70s, he was approached by a record label saying, well, hey, we would like to record a record with you. And I think he was a bit taken aback, because on the back of this one, which I believe, by the way, is his second album that he released, but he does have a blurb here. I'm just going to read something here to you. Telly describes himself as the only virgin recording artist there is. Yeah, he also has a fairly simple philosophy for making a record. He presents himself honestly. People know that his singing is not my bag, but if I say, hey, this is how Telly feels about this or that song, I can't make mistakes. I can only make mistakes by pretending to be a great singer. Yeah, so he was very modest about this. He was like, yeah, of course I can do that. I can give it a try. And he had this really nice, deep voice to him. And to be honest, I don't think I ever heard Telly sing before or perform anything on record. So when I picked this one up, I didn't know what to expect. I did expect that we would get that deep, nice voice that he has, but yeah. It did say here, by the way, includes the hit single If. I was like, well, I never heard If before. But this one starts out really well with rubber bands and bits of string. And these are all covers, I would assume. I recognize a lot of them, but this one I don't recognize, but I assume it's all covers. And it's more like... he's not singing, really. He does sing a bit on some of these, but it's more spoken word. He speaks the lyrics of the songs. And it is in that great, wonderful deep voice that he had. Really, it's like silk to your ears. Is that even an expression? But yeah, it's very soothing, a smooth, deep voice. And it's a lot about lost love on this one, and broken promises and all of that. And that is one of those. It's just great. And it just goes on. You're a Lady is another one that I think he does really, really great. And you know what? I would prefer listening to his versions over some of these originals for sure. They are super great. And then side 2 kicks off with If. Yeah, and that was the big hit single, according to the hype sticker. And after some research, I didn't have to do much research. It's a song by, I think, an American band called Bread. I heard about Bread before, but I never heard Bread. So, well, I had to listen to their original. And he hasn't done anything radical with this. The voice of Telly Savalas is what's called radically different. He reads. Once again, he doesn't really sing. But he does it so well. He does it so well. And yeah, it just goes on and on. This is a stellar album. I didn't expect it to be good or anything. It was just, my weird curiosity about celeb doing music that I collect. But yeah, this one I was pleasantly surprised by, and I listened to it several times since I picked it up last week. It's so good. And I love Telly Savalas' voice on this one. He could, for sure, make a record in his own way. It's spoken word, more or less, but hey, He does it in such a great way. So yeah, really great stuff, and I'm sure going to check out some more Telly, but if this is the only one that came onto my radar ever, I'm more than pleased. It's such a good record. I love Telly Savalas as a singer or a recording artist.
And if a face could launch 1,000 ships, then where am I to go? There's no one home but you. You're all that's left me to.
The last record for tonight, it just happens to be another actress. Yeah, we had a lot of actresses here tonight, but actually we're going to weigh up things here because the record that I'm going to talk about actually is a duet with no other than Falco.
Why should I wait for you to love me? Don't be too late. No way to make it happen. Friday next to Friday, turn the pain to pleasure. I wanna know if you are the one for me.
Yeah, some edgier, rockier stuff from Falco when he meets Brigitte Nielsen. Yeah, so this one I thought was all the rage back in the day. I thought it was a really great track when it was released, and today it hasn't really grown on me over the years. Let me just put it that way. It's a bit of a middle of the road pop rock kind of thing, and on this particular one, the 12-inch, we do get a dance mix, we do get a rock mix, and something called the other version. Yeah, so it's that one, the last track on the B side. I think it heightens it a bit. It's not mind-blowing or anything like that. It makes it a bit better. It's actually a really good mix. So it goes from a middle of the road to okay song. A good song. Yeah, it does. So I think they do complement each other very well when it comes to the voices. Falco's voice we are familiar with. Of course, 2 years earlier, he had a big hit with Rock Me Amadeus, so we know how he sounds like, even if you just heard that one. And of course, he had other hits as well here, especially here in Europe. But Brigitte Nielsen, new to the game, the music industry, just released her debut album. Or this one came before that one. I can't really remember, but it was the same year. So, but she does a good job as well. I think she has a really decent voice. She sings very well, and we do have reasons to come back to her debut album at some point as well, considering I choose to focus on this one. But yeah, there are some stories to tell about that one as well. Just some short things around Brigitte Nielsen. She is Danish. She started out as a model and then eventually worked her way into the movie industry, where I think her first role was as Red Sonja. Then got married to Sylvester Stallone. Well, at least I think they were married. And she starred alongside him in Rocky IV, I believe it was, and then in Cobra in 1986 as well. So she was an action star of sorts alongside Stallone at the time. And then after that, she's been featured in Beverly Hills Cop 2 as well, and some other movies. But in 1987, she was focusing on the music with her debut album, and of course this single with Falco. And this single, by the way, went all the way to #1 in Japan. In other places, I think Austria, it peaked at #6, Germany 22. Couldn't find any notes about charts positioning in my home country of Sweden, but it did get some airplay there, but probably didn't chart. So yeah, that's it. And before I leave you with this one, I can say if you're into some moaning and groaning on a record, you get a lot of that from both Falco and Brigitte here on the 12-inch, and especially on that dance mix. It's meant to be sensual, but to be honest, it's a bit cringy. So that was it for this Friday Crescendo and celebs that happened to record records sing, dance, and entertain us in a different way than we were used to. Yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this one. And like I said in the beginning, there's more where this came from. So if you want to see more, please put it down in the comments. But these were the more rare ones, I would say, or not rare, but more obscure ones from people that you're used to see act, or perhaps you haven't even heard of these actors and actresses before. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, that could be interesting. So you go and watch their movies or something like that, and then you pick up the records, yeah. Or you develop a strange obsession of collecting records with celebs. Yeah, who knows? Anyhow, so yeah, let me know if you want to see a second part of this one, because there's more, I promise you. I want to thank you all for watching yet another Friday Crescendo, or if this was the first one, thank you for watching this Friday Crescendo. I'm here every Friday. This is the anchor point of my channel, a way for me to make sure that I publish at least one episode a week. And there could be different topics in plural, and there could be a topic like today that I'm doing. So it could be anything really. So I hope you have a really great weekend. Stay cool, keep listening to the music and all of that. Until next time, you all take care of yourself. And as wonderful as usual, a big heartfelt adieu.
Movie rolls on, there ain't no more love scenes, the romance is gone. But it's a one-man show, it's moving real slow, but it's picking up speed as I'm turning the key. Coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up. Hey, Friday night.